Hi everybody, this is Cindy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have part 2 of a tutorial for the small ephemera folder. So yesterday, just to recap, what we made was the actual folder, and 6 inches by 9 by just 1/2 inches wide, and we added a belly band on the left side and made an envelope. And so that took us about 25 minutes or so. Not too much time, pretty easy. And today we're going to continue with stuff for the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side. And in the big envelope, what I did was I made a little journal here, and if you want to put a journal in, then the measurements for that are you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 11 and a half, no, I take that back, sorry, 10.5 inches wide and about 8 1/4 inches tall. And for this one, I just did 6 pages for the inside, 6 pieces of paper, so it's 24 pages. And I did a 3 whole pamphlet stitch on there. And I didn't do any embellishing. I might add maybe, something to the front of the journal, but I didn't want to embellish it too much because I wanted to fit comfortably inside the envelope that I made yesterday. And too much embellishment might cause it to bulge too much and to be too big for the folder. So I'll probably add like a little corner tuck spot here, and you can see I just used 24-pound plain white paper rather than coffee stained, which is what I used on the example that I showed you yesterday. I used a red contrasting thread here, and I put the bow on or the knot on the outside. So if you're interested in making the journal, that's all I did. And if you don't want to make a journal, you can put whatever you want in that pocket. It's nice and big. You can fit lots of stuff in there. So that's just a word about the journal. So what we need to do next, put that to the side, is to make the actual file folder folio section of our ephemera folder. And so what you're going to need for that are 2 pieces of double-sided 12 by 12 paper, and you're going to need to cut them down to just 11 3/4 inches wide. So you just need to trim off a scant 1/4 inch because it needs to fit inside the folder, so it needs to be a little smaller than the folder. So you'll need to trim it down to 11 by 3/4 and then 8.5 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Probably should do that one at a time, huh? So I'm just going to trim. I'm not sure what just happened, but my camera just turned off. So luckily the only thing I had done was to cut the paper down. So now what I have here are 2 pieces of paper, double-sided cardstock that are 11 3/4 inches wide and 8.5 inches tall. And if you wanted to, you could leave them just like this. Leave your corners square. You could round the corners. You don't have to do anything else to it if you don't want to. But I like the look of the file folder folio, so I'm going to cut these down to add those notches, the file folder notches on there. so I'm going to show you what I did, how I did that. And I don't have one of those file folder punch boards. I do have the tab punch, but I didn't want just tabs. I wanted to look more like a file folder. So what I did was I just happened to have this laying around. I didn't even have to get up to find it. I had started this forever ago, a file folder journal, and I had made a bunch of them and sold a bunch in our Etsy shop. And I think I had made so many, like in such a short amount of time, I just didn't want to make them anymore. So this is one that I started and didn't finish. So what I'm going to do is use it today to just pencil mark my the notches and then cut them out. And for some crafts you have to have a lot of tools. For paper crafting you really don't. There are a lot of things that you can do without lots of fancy schmancy tools, and this is one of them. You can just trace and cut. So on this one, this is the front of my folio, so I'm putting the notch on the top, but this will be the back side of the folio, and I'm going to put the notch on the bottom and do the same thing, just trace that, make sure my line is straight all the way across, and then cut it out. And on both sides. So there's one, and I'll go ahead and cut the other one. And then I'll make sure to erase any pencil marks. There we go. See, slick as a whistle. And it didn't cost me any extra money for supplies and tools. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other one, but I'm going to do that off camera so you don't need to watch, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and as you can see, I made the inside just like the outside, except I put the tabs on the reverse side, so up, down, and I also did just a 3-hole pamphlet stitch on this to keep them together. There are lots of different ways you could join these together, or you don't even really need to, but you could do it like traveler's notebook style. You could even machine stitch or staple if you have a long neck staple. But there's my start of my file folio, just 2 small file folders basically is what we just made. And now I'm going to put in some pockets and things. And so on my example here, I have 2 gusseted pockets on the first 2 pages, a long gusseted pocket in the center, a tuck spot, a big tuck spot here, and then a side tuck on this one. So I think I'm going to do the same thing for this. And I like the gusseted pockets because you don't have to strain to put things in, although they're a little looser, so things may fall out, but that is up to you. And so I'm going to use scraps from the other pieces that, things we cut out. So these are the 3 pieces I'm going to use for the pockets and a policy envelope-y kind of thing. And the I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the big pocket in the back. And so I'm going to make it the full length, and so that's should be 8.5 inches, and I want it to be fairly deep so that I can put things in it, not worry about anything falling out. And I definitely don't want that one. Don't really like the polka dots. I'm kind of leaning towards this one because I like that contrast, the big contrast. Could put the same on there, wouldn't even really be noticeable, which I think I'm going to go with that one, just something, a real stark contrast. So this needs to be 8.5 inches, so I need to cut off 3.5. And I'm not going to do anything fancy. This one I'm not going to gusset, and I'm just going to glue it down here, but I think I'm going to put like a thumb notch. And let me grab my big circle punch, and I'm going to offset it. And I don't think I'm going to do anything else at this point. And I'm not going to sew it down or even sew around the edges. I'm just going to go ahead and glue it. There's a small bead of Fabri-Tac all the way around the 3 sides. And I know what I'm going to put in the pocket, so I want it to be fairly close. And so I need a lot of space. So I'm going to put it pretty close to the inside fold there. And then let that glue set. I think I may... I'll save the embellishments for later, but I'm probably going to add like a black stripe or something on here. And then I'm going to put something in the pocket that's big enough that it will hide most of this, so it won't be too busy or hard on the eyes. Then I want to do a large tuck spot here, and I think I'm going to need a new sheet or another sheet of paper. And so I'm using, if you remember from yesterday, this authentic pad, and it's called Ingredient, and it's all kind of mid-century modern kitchen. So not 100% sure. This paper's kind of busy, which is what I like about it. I think it's the patterns are all so cute. Let's save those. I love this paper though. Night Sweet. And it has recipe cards in here too. I'm going to cut some of those out to fill up the pockets. think I might go with this one again because it is, it has a lot on there, but it's not busy either. And I really like that contrast with the red. And so I need this to be, probably, because I want it to be big. So I'm going to cut it about 6 inches, I think. By about that much. I didn't measure that. I know I'm going to need that again. So actually it was about 5 1/4 inches by 6 1/2. And I may have to trim that a little bit. But I'm going to put a notch here so that we have a nice pocket. It should hold everything in. And I'm going to trim just a little bit off the edge here. But I might do it in a straight line this time. This is not my favorite paper cutter. So, I think it needs something. I think it needs some black. Yep, I'm going to go ahead and mount this on black cardstock. And I had it out because I thought it might need it. Just for some contrast. And I'll make it a little sturdier as well. I kind of like that. I almost wish I had gone with that one instead. And we still could. I could flip it this way, but it's not quite as convenient to have the flap open on that side. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue this down. I'm really not doing a lot of sewing in this ephemera kit, either in the construction or on the ephemera I've been making to go inside. Normally my journals have a lot of sewing. I decided on these to go a little lighter. Excuse me. And clean up the mess. And I'm just going to, I may need to get the paper cutter out to make sure the edges are even. I want to make sure all the lines are straight. But I'm going to just use my scissors so that I don't waste too much of that black. And use this cutter for this. Make sure my edges are, I did a nice job on that one, on that side. Making sure, well, it was on the edge of the paper, and that looks good. Looks pretty good, and I know this needs to be trimmed because I know I didn't do a good job on that one. Looks pretty good. All right, so now we have one big side pocket, and then we're going to have this nice big tuck spot. And I'm not going to sew it down. If this were a big journal, I probably would. And I'm going to put glue just around two sides. So that we can put lots of big ephemera pieces tuck in there. Make sure it's on here straight and even. So that's two. Tuck, corner tuck and a side tuck. And I may add a little bit of embellishment to this as well. And I know I'm going to put something on here. I probably will put something on there too. And then I want to put a pocket in here, on here, and I could go with the polka dots or the forks. I don't know. What do you think? It's all kind of busy, I know. But once stuff is in the pockets, it won't look quite as busy. Or I've got this one. I actually like this one better than that one. And then might go with this one. What do you think? So I'm going to trim this down. I want to make sure that it is. I don't want it to go all the way to the tab. I want it to be just to the edge, actually, of the folder. And on this side, I'm going to go all the way to the edge. And I'm going to gusset, make sure this has gussets. So I'm just going to trim this off of the top. And it will still give us a nice deep pocket. Now this Authentique, one thing I really like about them is they always have some kind of a quote on the discard piece of the paper, and this one says, "One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one is not dined well." And I like that. So I'm going to include that somewhere in either on ephemera or on the folio, probably both, because I have a bunch of these quotes. So going to hang on to that. And so I need to double check my measurements. And so the pocket will be about 10.5 inches wide, but the paper is 12. So I'm going to do my gussets at about 3/4 inch on each side. And it doesn't have to be exact. You can put the pockets however or wherever exactly that you want. And I'm not going to gusset on the bottom, just on the sides. And if you want to put thumb tabs on here, you could do that, or you can just leave it. So for the gusset, I just put folded this at 3/4 inch, and I'm going to trim the sides, making lots of paper scraps. And if you wanted to put a gusset on the bottom, you could. I'm also going to go ahead and fold it before I glue it down. to make sure that I have the fold in the right spot. And I'm just going to eyeball this if you want, and it's almost exactly in half. So you could also, on the example, I put the pocket in before I stitched it together, so that the stitch actually went through the pocket. You could do it that way, or you could do it this way. Either way is fine. If you don't want a long pocket and you want to put another side tuck or another tuck spot or two small pockets or whatever you want, there are lots of options, right? So I'm going to put glue on my tabs here and a bead across the bottom. The reason I'm not putting the gusset on the bottom is because the pocket is so long that it makes it kind of loose, and I just don't want things to fall out. On the smaller pockets, I'm going to do a gusset on 3 sides. So that's my reasoning. If that's not how you want to do it, don't do it that way. So I'm going to make sure my fold lines up. And I want it right on the bottom. And then just finger press everything down. Make sure you don't have any glue seeping out. And then you have a nice big pocket there. I don't know, I may come back and put some thumb notches on there, or not. So now we have 4 of the 6 pages done. So side tuck, tuck spot, nice gusseted pocket there. So on these 2 pages, I'm going to put 2 gusseted pockets. The reason I don't want to put another long one here is because it's a little uncomfortable, when the pages, these 2 pages aren't attached, it's not quite as tidy. So I probably should have done these 2 pockets first. So while that's drying, this is drying, we can go ahead and make the other pockets. And I'm going to use scraps again because I don't want to be wasteful. So I think I'm going to go ahead and make them out of this. And this paper is 5 1/4. So those pockets will be a little shorter, but that's okay. And I think so this is actually a square, 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to cut it in half this way, and we'll make 2 smaller gusseted pockets. These should actually be the perfect size. And I'm going to score at just a 1/4 inch. I don't want it to have too big of a gusset, or it'll be too big and stuff will fall out. So I want just a small gusset. So I'm doing a 1/4 inch on 3 sides. the bottom and each side. And I'm going to trim right here on the bottom. I'm making kind of a 45-degree angle. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on the top. Just trim those little corners. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Just a 1/4 inch on 3 sides. The 2 sides and the bottom. And just I use the kind of the X, so the X kind of marks the spots on those, and just a little trim there on the corners. And there we have one pocket. And the second pocket. And so going to just a little bit of glue on the tabs. I got a little glue on there. Make sure press it down really well. And on the second pocket, this folio is not that big that you're going to be able to put a lot of pieces of ephemera in it. About probably 20, well, depending of course on their size, but you don't need to make huge pockets. If you want to make them bigger, go ahead. If you want to do 2 small pockets on each one, do small pockets, 1 big pocket. You have lots of options. Here's our folio. 2 small gusseted pockets, the bigger center pocket here, huge tuck spot, and the side tuck. So you do have lots of room to put stuff, but it's not huge. I think this is a nice size for a project. So there we go. 2 of the inside elements done. I'm guessing I need to maybe do a third, maybe. Part 3 of the tutorial to show that the last element I did was a pocket here with a button and string closure. And I know we don't have time to do that right now because my iPad just doesn't hold that much data. So I think we'll do that. I'll come back tomorrow and do part 3. So just a recap. Here we have our envelope with this small journal inside tucked into this belly band there. And our folio, which is all done. Just need to start filling those pockets. Cute, huh? I love this project. I think this is so much fun, which is why I've made 2 in the last 2 days. So I'll be back tomorrow with part 3. I'll show you how to make the button and string closure pocket for the back page, and maybe we'll make some ephemera to put inside. What do you think? I thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you tomorrow for part 3. And until I see you again, have a fantastic day and stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.